What if the most dominant force in WWE right now isn't interested in going solo anymore? What if Seth Rollins, the man who's proven he can stand against anyone, decides his path to supremacy runs through the unstoppable Femi? Welcome back to WWE Express, and if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell right now because we're about to break down one of the most intriguing storyline possibilities in modern wrestling, and trust me, this is the kind of analysis that doesn't stop once the credits roll. Let's set the stage. We've spent the last several months watching Femi emerge from the depths of WWE's roster into the absolute main event picture. The ruler hasn't just been competing, he's been dominating, leaving a trail of beaten competitors in his wake. His physical dominance is undeniable, but what's really captivating is how he carries himself, that air of inevitability, that sense that every moment in the ring is a coronation rather than a contest. Simultaneously, Seth Rollins has been navigating his own journey, proving once again why he's one of the most versatile competitors on any WWE roster. He's been the architect of his own success, adapting, evolving, and constantly finding new ways to remain relevant at the highest levels. Now imagine these two forces converging. Imagine Seth Rollins looking at Femi's trajectory and recognizing something he understands intimately: the hunger for dominance, the refusal to accept anything less than main event gold. What if Seth doesn't see Femi as a threat to destroy, but as a force to align with? This isn't about either man losing credibility. Instead, it's about two competitors recognizing that together, they could become an unstoppable force that reshapes the entire landscape of WWE. The Shield was never just about three men in tactical gear. The original Shield was about a movement, about changing the game, about power meeting purpose. When you think about a new iteration with Seth Rollins and Femi at the core, you're not talking about nostalgia, you're talking about evolution. These are two men operating at completely different points in their careers, from entirely different backgrounds within wrestling, bringing different philosophies to the table. Seth brings experience, adaptability, and the knowledge of what it takes to main event the biggest shows. Femi brings raw dominance, youth, and the hunger of someone still climbing toward his ultimate destination. Together, they wouldn't just be a team, they'd be a statement. But here's where things get genuinely complicated, and this is where the storytelling becomes absolutely fascinating. Paul Heyman has been a central figure in so much of what's defined this era. Whether it's his presence, his counsel, or his direct involvement, Heyman has shaped the narrative around some of WWE's biggest names. The idea of Femi and Seth Rollins confronting Paul Heyman isn't just about a physical altercation. It's about ideologies clashing, about different visions of power and authority colliding in a way that could send shockwaves through the entire company. What makes this scenario so compelling is the psychological dimension. Paul Heyman represents a certain philosophy about power control, manipulation, the idea that knowledge and counsel matter as much as physical capability. Femi and Seth Rollins, conversely, represent raw dominance and self-determination. When Femi walks out as the ruler and Rollins positions himself as an architect of his own destiny, they're both essentially saying that their path forward doesn't require anyone else's permission or guidance. That's not just a disagreement, that's a fundamental challenge to everything Heyman represents in terms of influence and control. And then there's Bronn Breaker. This is where the story gets another layer of depth that shouldn't be overlooked. Bron Breaker is already established as one of the most physically imposing competitors on any roster. He carries legacy, he carries dominance, and he's been building his own narrative momentum. If Femi and Seth Rollins are forming something together, where does that leave Bron? Is he an obstacle to be overcome? Is he someone they're building toward confronting? Or is there a possibility that Bron Breaker becomes the counterpoint to this new power structure, another force rising at the exact moment when Femi and Rollins are uniting? The beauty of this scenario is that it creates genuine unpredictability. When you have multiple established and rising competitors, when you have figures like Paul Heyman whose influence could go in multiple directions, when you have the possibility of new alliances forming while old power structures are challenged, you've created an environment where literally anything can happen next. That's what makes wrestling narratives tick: the sense that the landscape is shifting, that established orders can be disrupted, and that character interactions matter because they genuinely change what comes next. Think about the in-ring dynamic too. Femi and Seth Rollins would bring different offensive and defensive approaches to any match. Seth's experience with quick transitions, his ability to work psychology into every moment, his knack for making his opponent look incredible while still getting his hand raised, that paired with Femi's sheer physical dominance and presence creates a combination that's incredibly difficult to game plan against. They're not the same wrestler at different career points. They're genuinely complementary skill sets that would make them one of the most dangerous teams in modern WWE. What happens when the ruler confronts Paul Heyman also depends on what Heyman chooses to do with that confrontation. Does he back down? Does he try to manipulate his way into influencing this new force? Does he align with Bron Breaker as a counter? Does he go completely silent, which might actually be more intimidating than any verbal response? The intrigue here is that Paul Heyman has spent years proving he's always thinking 3 steps ahead. Even if he's confronted by Femi and Seth Rollins, Does that mean he's actually concerned, or is he already calculating how this development serves his ultimate goals? This is the kind of storyline that works because it respects the audience's intelligence. It gives them multiple entry points to be invested, whether they're drawn to Femi's dominant rise, Seth Rollins' adaptability, Paul Heyman's involvement, Bronn Breaker's response, or the broader implications for WWE's power structure. Every one of those angles has merit. Every one of those threads pulls the narrative forward. The wrestling business is built on moments of change, on times when the landscape shifts and suddenly everything feels different. A new Shield with Femi and Seth Rollins, confronting Paul Heyman while Bron Breaker rises as a counterforce, represents exactly that kind of moment. It's not about repeating the past. It's about taking elements of what worked before and forging them into something completely new and relevant for today. If you've made it this far in the video, you clearly have the passion for wrestling storytelling that makes wrestling special. That's exactly why I'm asking you to subscribe to WWE Express, because we're going to keep breaking down these narratives, analyzing the psychology, and celebrating wrestling as the character-driven art form it actually is. Subscribe now, and let's keep exploring the stories that make us love this business.